So you probably spend a lot of time thinking about what your employer thinks about you. Are you delivering? Are you visible enough? Are you on the right projects? But here's the thing that most designers don't stop to ask themselves. Who are you when the job goes away? Because if the answer to that question is nothing, then I think you've got a problem. And if that sounds like you, stick around because today we're going to talk about what it actually means to own your career, not just survive it. What's up, UX fam? How's your mom and them? Welcome to another episode of Beyond UX Design. I'm Jeremy. If you're new here, welcome. I am super stoked to have you. How often does your team stare at a blank Figma canvas, unsure where to start? Well, this episode is brought to you by Mobbin, the ultimate UI and UX design inspiration library. Mobbin gives your team instant access to over 600,000 beautifully designed UI screens and user flows from apps you love with new content added every week. And with their new AI-powered search, finding exactly what you need takes seconds. Whether you're searching by app category, UI pattern, or even just a specific feature. My team and I use Mobbin whenever we're kicking off a new feature, and it's our go-to for exploring inspiration and seeing what the rest of the industry is doing. It shortens that early discovery phase significantly, and it's that kind of tool that makes the whole team faster. So you ready to level up your design process? Visit mobbin.com/beyondux to get 20% off Mobbin Pro and never run out of inspiration again. And as always, thanks so much to Chris, Siraquan, Stacy, Roddy, Megan, Andrew, John, Mark, Kevin, Jason, Michelle, Marty, Tino, Adina, and Zoe for all their support. And for more information on how you can support the show and help more people find out about what we're doing, make sure to check out beyonduxdesign.com/support. And of course, if you think the show is worth sharing, then I would love it if you told some friends. There's this unspoken assumption that a lot of designers carry around that if you just do good work, your career will take care of itself. And look, doing great work obviously matters, but that is not the whole story because your career doesn't just live inside your job description. It lives in those relationships that you build, all the things you create on the side, the communities that you've shown up for, and even the things that you choose to walk away from. And the designers who figure this out early, they're the ones that tend to stop waiting for somebody to hand them their next opportunity, and they start making their own, which is exactly why I am so excited to have Frank Bach on the show today. Frank is a lead product designer who's worked at some of the world's top tech companies, places like Instagram, DoorDash, Headspace. He's got experience spanning product, brand, and growth design, but in my humble opinion, that might be the least interesting thing about Frank. Frank also runs the LA design and dev community. He teaches courses. He runs a sunshine shop. He fronts a hardcore band called Monk. Frank is somebody who has clearly figured out that a career worth having doesn't fit neatly inside one little box. And today, we're going to find out how he thinks about all of it and how he does it. Frank, welcome to Beyond UX Design, man. I am so excited to have you on. How is it going, dude?
It's going pretty good. Yeah, this morning I just dropped off my daughter at school and just checking in. Happy to be here. Happy to see you.
I am so excited. So when I think about, I don't know, what's the right word? Not multifaceted, but when I think about kind of into everything, I think of Frank. I think of you. So I want to hear a little bit about you. I think you've been on like a ton of shows. I think a lot of people probably know who you are, but I'm curious, how'd you get into all the stuff you're doing? And we'll just kind of go from there.
I think the word you're looking for is multi-hyphenate. Is that
multi-hyphenate? Yeah. That was the word. Yes,
yeah,
that's it.
I haven't heard that one in a while. The term generalist kind of has a dirty word. We don't really like to use that one. Doesn't
sound as cool.
No. Yeah, I think I got into design just, I think, being an artistic kid, a creative kid who loves spending time on a computer. If I wasn't here clocking into work for the day, I'd probably be right here, right now, doing something creative, something else. I don't know if it would be product design, graphic design, or making art, but all those things are interesting to me. And I just feel really lucky that I've found a way to make a living doing those things. And I try to dabble with a little bit here, a little bit there, whether that be music or building digital products, that kind of stuff. Just I'm all over the place, but in my head, it makes sense.
The first thing I want to kind of dig into, I think a lot of designers, we tend to associate our self-worth with our title. I'll give you an example for me. I worked for a long time at GE Aerospace. I got to do a lot of really cool stuff, travel over the world, visit all these awesome shops. I led a design team, a bunch of designers, huge engineering team. And I kind of like associated that with my self-worth. My product is helping GE save millions and millions of dollars a year, blah, blah, blah. And then I got laid off. And then it was just like, well, fuck, now what? What the hell am I? From someone like your perspective, dude, you've worked huge names. And I'm curious, how do you keep X this, X that from being like a crutch and being something that people don't necessarily know you for?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really challenging because you kind of get the best work out of yourself when you fully commit to the company, the culture, the ways that that team works, and like just really get your head in the game. But it's a balance because you have to remember you're bringing your full self to the job, but also it might end tomorrow. So I try to treat it a little bit more, even though on paper I'm a W-2 employee, full-time employee in the US. I sort of try to treat it like it's a freelance job. It just happens to take up my whole day. And I used to have my own studio, my own agency where I would be juggling 4 or 5 projects at a time. And now I just feel like, wow, how lucky am I? I get to basically focus on 2. That feels like almost like light work at this point. And so just kind of having that mindset that I choose to be here I show up every day. And I don't know if that's this weird side effect of at-will employment, which a lot of people are like freaked out about. That's a unique thing in some states in the US. I just kind of embrace it. It's at-will employment. I choose to be here every day. They choose to have me here every day. It's a relationship that goes both ways. And I've got a ton of good stuff to offer these companies. And that kind of keeps me anchored in Frank, the designer, who works at these companies. And I think I get a little bit of the best of both worlds because there is a huge return on having those big brand names on the resume. The door's open. Once I had Headspace and Red Bull on the resume, I was able to get screener calls with almost any job I applied for. And so I can't say that hasn't worked out well too.
You've worked with a lot of people at these really big, well-known places. And I'm curious, before we start talking about like all the other stuff and getting in everything and personal brand and all that stuff, I'm curious, the danger that you've seen. What are the traps that you've seen some of your colleagues maybe fall into when they just sort of fall back to, well, I'm X Meta, X this, X Google, X that? What do you see happen? Like, what's the downside of doing that from your opinion?
I think you maybe like you said earlier, putting your own self-worth too much into these companies and these brand names. And at the end of the day, when maybe you've moved on or whatever happened, you laid off, fired, who knows, jobs change for many reasons, right? People sometimes have a little bit of trouble figuring out who they are and who they want to be after that, because the truth is you are at work 8-10 hours a day. You're probably working more than you're with your family. So it makes sense that it can become your identity. But I think it's important to remind yourself that your offering to this world is bigger than your 9-to-5. And it's even bigger than what you contribute to your career and the design industry. We all have so much to give and to offer. And again, going back to you make that active choice every day to contribute in this way, and that you are like actually in the driver's seat of your career and your life.
This kind of goes back to then this idea of personal brand, right? If you're not going to fall back on X Google, X Meta, X Fang, whatever, it requires you to sort of cultivate. What are you then known for? If you aren't known for the title, what are you known for? And that becomes, I think, your personal brand. I think it's icky. It's an icky topic. A lot of people hate the word personal brand and it feels kind of gross. A lot of designers feel gross. We don't need to go and express the whole idea or talk about that rabbit hole. I feel like we could probably talk hours just about personal brand. But I am curious from your perspective, though, why do a lot of designers feel like it's such a gross thing?
Yeah, I think it forces you to take a look at yourself from an outside perspective, and that can be a little uncomfortable. I think there's parts of ourselves that we all like, and there's maybe parts of ourselves that we don't like that much. I don't know. Some people struggle to be on camera. Some people, just looking at themselves is a very difficult thing to do. I think you kind of see it manifest in ways like designing your portfolio is the hardest thing you can ever do as a designer. But on the job, we're designing stuff for other people, no problem. That is the job. But when it comes to our own stuff, it's a struggle because you do have to do those exercises of, okay, what are my values? What do I want to be known for? What am I good at? And that can be a little, what's the word? It's a little bit of indulging, sort of indulging in yourself. And that, I don't know if there's some, whatever, the 7 deadly sins or something, probably indulging is probably in there.
It's
I don't know them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can feel a little self-indulgent. And I think that makes people feel icky about it. And also in a weird way, you see people kind of shame others for doing it as well. And I think that's also like this sort of mirror effect of like, you feel crappy that you're not personal branding at that level and getting the benefits, and you're seeing someone else maybe get the benefits that makes you feel bad. So you project it on them, and we could have a full therapy session about this, but I think that's my read on it.
So here's the thing. The reason why I want to bring you on, because I want to eventually get off this topic of personal brand, because I think it's moot. But the idea, though, is people think about you when you're not around. You either cultivate that or you don't. And they think of you what they want to think of you. And when people think about personal brand, I think the first thing they think of is I have to post online all the time. I got to go on social media and I got to become a content creator.
Right.
And what I love about what you're doing is you are doing 1,000 things. You're getting involved with everything in a bunch of different, almost completely polar opposite kind of things, bands and live meetups and some content creation online. But what I love about what you're doing is you're not relying on becoming a content creator and posting 10 times a day and blah, blah, blah. So I want to talk a little bit about this, though. The idea of cultivating what you want to be known for outside of your online presence, your in-person presence perhaps too. When I think about Frank, this is, I don't know, I hope you don't take the offense to this, but like when I think about Frank, I think of your mustache, I think of your glasses. And I think at one point I even remember you had like an illustration where it was like a caricature of you. And I wonder, those types of things you were trying to, I feel like you want people to remember. Those are iconic things. Yeah, they're very unique.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious you just talk a little bit about that, the thought process there perhaps. And not to say everybody needs a caricature, but what were your thoughts when you were putting that together? I'm curious.
I love it. I think you're going to talk about my look. My look is something that's kind of come together over a long period of time. Some of it naturally, some of it less naturally, I guess. I like all of it. You know, I like who I am and what I look like. That might sound vain, but I like this idea of being memorable. You think about, I don't know, the Hollywood movie stars or the pop artists or whatever, the people in the world that sort of have an iconic look. There's something about them that stands out. And I think you start to see this a little bit. I've got some friends in the food industry. You've seen the famous chefs they've got like some really standout facial hair, or they've got a head tattoo or something. There's something to remember you by. Guy Fieri, everybody knows.
Like his hair, right? Yeah.
I think that's one aspect. And I think also during the pandemic, this idea that we all lived in this tiny square on Zoom all day long, that was like what your coworkers would remember you by. I really started to think, I should probably put some effort into how I show up on that tiny little square, because that's how people are judging me. So if I show up camera off every day, they won't remember me. But if I show up with something to remember me by, like maybe the glasses I'm wearing today, maybe they will remember. And like even, I don't know if this is going to be on video at some point, but my background, I've put a lot of thought into this and how this kind of shows up. For a while, I was working out of the corner of my kitchen, and that kind of really bothered me because I didn't like how I showed up every day. So yeah, and honestly, I do judge what I see. I see people with a Zoom background that doesn't really live up to what I think they could as a person, as a designer. I think you have a great setup, by the way.
Thanks, man. I was just going to say, I got like some Legos. I got like my dad joke button here.
100%.
I got like some Gundam Wing stuff.
Yeah, you put some thought. Yeah,
I love it. And actually, this is so random, but I have this Star Trek. It's designing the final frontier, and it's all about set design and costume design of Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
It's unrelated, but I put stuff here that I want to put out in the world that I want people to look at and see. And even if you don't pick it up, it calls to the certain type person. I remember one guy pinged me on LinkedIn one time and was like, dude, is that designing the Final Frontier book? And I was like, are you fucking, how did you see that? He saw it in like a YouTube video or something. And I don't know, man, that kind of stuff, like you put out what you want and you manifest those relationships. And
totally.
I feel like that's the same kind of thing when it comes to when we're thinking about networking, the jobs you want. You've got to find the people that work at those jobs. You've got to connect with those people. We're all humans. We like to connect with humans. Yeah. You know, so it's like, do you want to work at a place that like wouldn't want me to have these Gundam Wings and Legos in the background?
Totally.
So I don't know. There's like that. I feel like that is all connected to personal brand, even though most people just think like personal brand is posting shit on LinkedIn.
You'll hear people say that, hey, did anyone ever land a job off of LinkedIn? Or has anyone ever even gotten a job off of Twitter? I don't know that it's always that clear, but I can definitely say, for example, when I was interviewing at Meta for Instagram, I really wanted to join a team working for IG. I wasn't really a huge fan of Facebook at the time. So I thought, if I'm going to go there, has to be Instagram. That's kind of my terms. And so the recruiter I was working with kind of fielded my portfolio with some hiring managers at Instagram. And ends up, I landed on a team working for the creators team at Instagram because my manager at the time just recognized my name and my avatar. He was not even a guy who's on Twitter. Just from being around in the industry, Frank was familiar to him. And so he took a bet on me. And so in that way, it's sort of a roundabout way it worked out due to like 10, 15 years of just being online, posting publicly and cultivating that brand.
I want to switch a little bit now to offline brand.
Sure.
We had a chat not long ago. You mentioned something about there's designers that you work with that are just total legends. People know them, you know their name, but they're not online. They're not on social media. They have basically no presence. What are they doing instead?
Yeah. I think there's two sides of it. Like you said, I think the sort of internal brand, the thing you're known for within the company, that can be extremely powerful too. And sometimes those people are invisible online. What they're doing instead is, rather than that 5-10% time being chronically online, they're probably prototyping more. They're building more. They're making more stuff. They're having those extra conversations that make their work that much better. I can definitely say there's been many, many designers I've worked with who I'd never even heard their names before, but you get inside these companies and you go, whoa, I'm just going to make this up, but everybody knows Dan at Instagram. Dan's the hottest prototyper in the whole company, and he knows origami, Figma inside out. He could prototype whatever you need. Dan can prototype it with all the top tools, and he's a freaking wizard. But on Twitter, LinkedIn, quiet, nothing going on. That's one way you can do it too.
Before we move off of like the social media aspect, because I want to get in like your multi-hyphenate creative career, you mentioned something too in our last chat, and I thought this was like really fascinating. But I think people think I'm applying for jobs or I got to be online, I got to be known for things, and they're trying to constantly post. But you brought up a really great point about going into maintenance mode and thinking about that brand, thinking about how you want people to think about you when you're not around. Doesn't have to be actively, constantly like being curated all the time. Sometimes you just got to do your 9 to 5. You've got kids. I got kids. I know what it's like. You got to like family stuff. You got soccer games and tournaments and karate tournaments and all that shit. So you've got to go and we call it maintenance mode. I think most people probably think I got to be 100% or I'm zero.
You and I both were in some communities where we're constantly chatting with other designer kind of creators. And some of these people who have gone into being a creator as a full-time job, I think it's easy to forget that there's a lot of these people you see who are doing it as full-time work. And don't feel too bad if you're not able to carve out the time to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, I typically think of my creator type efforts as supporting a larger goal. So maybe that's the next job hunt, or the next career pivot. Or let's say right now we're living in this sort of like designers are also engineers now with the AI tools. So I'm heavily leaning into that with my content creation because I want to leave this sort of cookie trail, so to speak, or this cookie crumb trail to show that like I didn't just come out of nowhere and start thinking about AI tools. This is something that's been like built over time. And yeah, I don't put pressure on myself to keep up with it every day. If an interesting thought comes to mind, I'll typically share it, post it, whatever network feels appropriate. But yeah, I think like in a time like right now where I'm not actively on the job hunt, I'm not really putting that pressure to keep up with social media. And I see other people who are posting daily, and I know what my strategy is, so I don't really get envious of, oh, this guy got a brand deal with Framer. Oh, I wish I could get that. Like I kind of know where I'm headed and why.
I think that idea of maintenance mode, I never really like thought about that and just thinking about, I'm just busy. Maybe you approach this differently, but when I started to post on LinkedIn, I had a very specific regimented schedule. It was like on Monday I post this, Tuesday I post that, Wednesday I post about this stuff, and I have every day. Yeah. And then, but when I felt like shit that day or something and I didn't post, or my kids had a field trip and I feel bad, I felt guilty. I'm letting my fans down. And then I don't know, over time I just realized this is such bullshit. This isn't sustainable. I can't keep this up. And I missed a day. I don't think anybody even notices.
No one cares.
Nobody cares.
If they didn't, I fall into that trap a little bit with my music projects with the band. We put out a record or we put out a single and I'm like, like the second single should come out like 5 to 6 weeks after the first one. And it's like, literally no one cares. We're all pretty much focused on our own shit we have going on that nobody has time to really worry that much about what you're not doing. That's like relieving in itself. Okay, yeah, I'll get to it when I get to it. But yeah, I think like just staying focused on what's that number one important thing in your life right now. And for some moments, it's like just showing up for my family, keeping my job stable. Who gives a shit about my like 5 LinkedIn posts if I'm on the verge of getting laid off?
That's a great segue into what I wanted to talk about next, which is this idea that your career doesn't have to fit neatly inside a little box. And I think one of the things that I've seen over the years, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is designers, I don't know, I feel like we're unique in a way. I've never talked to like an electrician who feels this way, or like even product managers who are like, I'm a designer and I care about the users and I fight for the users and blah, blah, blah. And I've never heard an electrician be like, I fight with the copper wires. I'm there to do a job. You pay me and I go home. And I think we have this weird, I don't know what the right word is. We have this weird dogmatic, almost approach to our work where I can't work somewhere that doesn't fulfill me. And I think there's this idea that I want to explore with you a little bit, that your day job, your 9-to-5 day job that pays your bills does not have to be that thing that fills your creative cup, that fills your cup. I wonder how you feel about that. I'd love to hear your thoughts, that like trying to decouple your fulfillment from your 9-to-5 job.
I think I've lived both of those stories. I've had jobs that were, to me, the number one best thing I wanted to be working on at the time, creatively fulfilling. I was on the right projects. I felt like I was being well represented by my manager. Everything was going extremely well. I aligned with the brand values of the company. And then there's other roles where, some things I might have joined certain companies for different reasons. And it is good to remind yourself of like the electrician analogy and like, why do we do this to ourselves? I think you should probably go into the job with a backbone and an opinion. I think electrical work is you're either like doing it right or you're doing it wrong. And it's like extremely dangerous. Design is a little more nuanced. We can convince ourselves of a lot of things if we think about it enough. I think maybe because a lot of designers come into the job with a more creative, artistic background, I think maybe tend to be a little bit purist in that way. I see that more from people who come in from graphic design than I do people who've come into the world of product design through, say, human-computer interaction programs, like the more technical.
The ones with the art background that went to art school at BFA. I could totally see that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that I think it's kind of ingrained in you to stand up for what you believe is right. But yeah, it is. I don't know that I have a solid answer for that one, but I've definitely felt both.
It's that we're all too woke, dude. We got that woke college education. That was our problem.
Totally. Yeah, no, too much time in social studies.
That's it, dude. So you've got the meetup. You teach, you have a hardcore band, run a shop. And I'm curious, all of these things that you're doing, what's your thought on if your manager says, you're doing too much, you got to focus on your day job? When you've got all this stuff going on, how do you feel like that impacts your day job?
Yeah, I think it's important to not be dipping into the other things during your, we'll call them working hours. Keep the side projects. I've had different relationships with different managers. Some didn't like it. Some loved it. Some didn't care. Some weren't paying enough attention to even know. So it's like it comes in all sort of flavors. The best situations have been when a manager really sees the full picture of me and gets me and is interested in it. I had a manager at DoorDash who was looking to hire more designers in LA. He was San Francisco based. And so he was leaning on me a little bit. It's like, hey, you do these meetups. Like, that's very interesting. Anybody at those meetups who you think might make for a good candidate for a product design role here? So it's okay, now you're seeing the value I'm adding is deeper than just my work prototyping and building features. I can be a connector for the company as well. With the music stuff I'm doing, I have a bit of a sort of an audio background or passion. I care about sound design, or I care about composition, symphony. I think you can apply that to the world of digital design too and say, okay, if we have this project coming up that requires like a high level of, I don't know, like brand, craft, taste, touch, whatever you want to call it, like maybe Frank's the guy to lead that one because I've got a really wide view on just creativity in general.
I've been doing this podcast for a long time and it doesn't take up too much of my time, but I will say, dude, all of the amount of people I've met, the amount of conversations I've had have been so inspiring, and I would 100%, without a doubt say that like it has helped me become a better designer at work.
Oh yeah.
And like I would imagine too, like with you're meeting a bunch of people, but like even just like you mentioned the other creative outlets that are tangentially related to product design, art, music, things like that. I don't know if you have any like specific examples, but like that's just, to me, I can't imagine a boss like a designer. But going back to what we talked about before, like putting out there, would you be happy working in a place where your boss was like, you can't be in a band while you're here, it's too much,
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I don't think anyone would care that you play in a band because it's definitely seen as a hobby. But let's say you're doing the sort of conference speaking engagement thing.
Taking off work,
like, you look at that, being in a band and doing speaking engagements, you're just a person on a stage with a message for 30 minutes or so. They're pretty much the same thing. One pays a lot better than the other.
You guys can figure out which one. Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of funny when you think of it that way. Because that's like, why would someone have an opinion on that? And hobby is okay, but a work-ish hobby is not okay. Like, where's the line? I think you just have those conversations early on with managers. And definitely when I find myself maybe interviewing for a role, I try to share the full picture of me and show where these things add value to what I'm going for, and say, like I do these. Sometimes I do conferences. I try to do 1 or 2 a year. It's not this huge thing like a secondary career. Some years I don't do any, but doing that stuff has helped me be more confident in speaking and getting in front of groups and having an opinion and sharing that. And like, that's a very valuable skill when you're inside a company too, because even top designers some people get a little sketched out before sharing something at critique or whatever it is.
I want to ask you something about being consistent here, because having your hands in so many things, you've got 24 hours in a day, you obviously got nights and weekends, but kids, family, everything else. How do you stay consistent? Do you prioritize? Maybe it's kind of like maintenance mode. Something's going to maintenance mode and you don't spend as much time. Curious how you think about that.
I think it's a bit of a juggling act. Definitely my wife and I have a bi-weekly check-in where it's, am I showing up enough in the ways that you need me? Because I know that I will go absolutely ham on career and hobby stuff, and I will not be the greatest partner for some moments. I really rely on those check-ins because I think it's not just that I don't care about family stuff or being a good partner. It's just that I get so excited by everything that can be done. And not to be dramatic, but like with this one precious life, you only live once. I want to do it all. I want to taste it all. But yeah, a big piece of that is your family and making sure that you are showing up in the ways that they need you. But yeah, there's certainly moments of, okay, I can tell I'm putting in 120% at work, so something has to give. I'm going to have to rely on one of my volunteers to host a meetup, or I might have to pay somebody to, I don't know, mow the lawn. Things that I normally would do on my own, but I have to let go of something to take on another thing.
Thinking about people listening out there,
yeah,
they only do their job, right? 9 to 5. They don't have any hobbies. They don't have any, or maybe there's things they aspire to do, but they don't actually actively do it. I'm curious, probably a lot of people out there thinking like, I don't have time for this. I've got too much stuff going on. What's something that they could do? What's the minimum viable thing, MVP version of this? Or like, what's one thing that you would say, just get out there, dude, start doing some stuff?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a different answer for everyone. It's really healthy to have hobbies, and sometimes hobbies are going to be aligned with your work. Sometimes they won't. There's probably a lot of people who have more sort of quiet activities and hobbies. I'm sure there's people who are at the rec center right now playing soccer and they don't go and post about it. What soccer taught me about B2B SaaS. That's totally fine and normal. If there's a way you can connect the hobby to support your career, maybe there's a through line there and maybe there's not. But if you're so lucky to be able to connect those things, I think it becomes this sort of one thing feeds into the other, and you can sort of benefit pretty greatly from that. But some people will argue and say, oh, that kind of sucks the fun out of a hobby. Like now it feels like I'm sort of trying to monetize a thing that I used to just do for fun. I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but monetizing things is fun for me.
It's fun.
I have expensive taste. I like to buy stuff. I want to buy the Rivian, like that. I think about it all the time, and I'm actively trying to save up the funds to make it happen. So if I can monetize hobbies and that still meet some of my savings goals, that feels pretty good too.
There is something to be said for when the money starts to feel pressure to make more of it. Maybe it's different because I think maybe what you're doing is you sell it and it's gone, shop and stuff like that. But with the podcast, for instance, it started as a hobby. Now I got sponsors and they pay me up front, and now I have to deliver. I'm like in debt. I'm indebted to these. I have like time debt or sweat equity debt. I guess I got to pay off now because they paid me, and now I'm like, God, I want to do it today, but shit, I got to, and I want to go to sleep. I'm tired. That's something, I don't know. I guess everybody's different, but I don't know.
Yeah, that little bit of pressure can sometimes, but it's also, I think it's a motivator because it does force you to make the thing happen. I feel that a bit with the LA design meetups. We've got, I think, 3 or 4 kind of community sponsors every year. And I promise them that I'll put their logo on the events and that we'll have 4 of them every year. And sometimes I realize, oh shoot, it's been like 2 months since the last event, which kind of like screws the rest of the year because I won't be able to squeeze in 3 events with the time we have left. So how do I make that work? And sometimes you find yourself apologizing, like, hey, can we push this one to next year? That kind of thing. But yeah, the pressure kind of sucks, but I think it does help get you moving and get you making stuff happen. But I totally see what you're saying.
Well, speaking of like motivation, I feel like a lot of times when we think about people with 9 to 5s, whether they're designers or anything else, right? People are busy, family, all that stuff. You just get in this, I don't know, you go through the motions of life, you just pick the kids up, drop them off, cook dinner, wash the clothes, go to bed, drop them off, go, and it's just like this cycle, and you realize you're like, shit, it's been like 3 months and I haven't even gone to the gym. I haven't even done anything for myself. And I don't know, it's like one of those things, like, I don't know if you have any advice for people like that just like, they have the ideas, they have the passion, just like kickstart, just like, get off your ass and go do it. If you have any advice for anybody out there that's thinking like that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people wait for the perfect moment and they're so afraid to fail publicly that they don't get anything done. You kind of got to get over that. I don't know if being around sort of more builder minded people has helped. I think there's a famous guy on Twitter called Peter Levels, and Peter is known for building startup after startup. He'll build 10 or 12 of them and watch 10 of them fail for 2 of them to succeed, or maybe none succeed. And just accepting that is part of the iteration process of you have to fail to figure out what's the right thing. Think of it a little bit as in music terms. If you're starting a new music project, you're probably going to have some demos. You're going to like sort of try to find the sound. What are we making? What's the tuning? What is this band or this group made of? What are we going to sing about? What are we going to talk about? And then by maybe your second album, you've found the groove. Okay, there's an audience who cares enough about this. We should go a little deeper down this path. I think it's the same. It's the way that is like MVP thinking. But yeah, just start somewhere, start anywhere. You're going to mess up. You're going to have some things you're not as proud of, but it's just part of the process.
I want to dig into the side of this that I think a lot of people don't think about, which is you've got a lot of stuff going on.
Sure.
How do you learn to take stuff out? And when and how? So I'm curious, you've got a lot going on. You got all these things. How do you actually decide when it's time to stop doing one of them? Do you have a filter for that? Is there a key criteria? If this is, I'm out, I'm done.
Right. Well, a lot of times if the thing is losing money, that's going to be a good sign that you should probably either pivot it or drop it. Or if it's not creatively fulfilling. So for example, music is very creatively fulfilling. It's not a moneymaker. I wish it was. It is a big thing that brings me joy. And I think paints the kind of full picture of who I am. So I'm going to keep that one around. But it's not going to be a 12 months out of the year push. We're going to have kind of these seasonal once or twice a year release something and kind of put a little bit of time and money behind it. I guess I feel like I've set myself up in a nice way that I'm maxed out. I don't think there's anything else to add to the puzzle. And it feels like the puzzle is, I've got all the pieces in place. For example, you mentioned Sunshine Shop is my e-commerce store that I spun up to try to make my own merch and apparel, and I ended up kind of building lines or collections with other creators, and ends up these other creators have much bigger audiences and they tend to buy even more stuff. So that is more lucrative than my own stuff, but I still make my own things. And then when I started the band Monk, we're like, wait, we need a merch shop. So why doesn't the band's merch shop live on Sunshine Shop? So now you can start to see, okay, the e-com thing is feeding into the band. And if I make some merch for the LA design community, I'll probably shoehorn that into Sunshine Shop because it's this broad general store that represents a bunch of things I'm interested in. That said, an e-commerce store can always be on in the background. Somebody could have bought something during this conversation and I don't have to lift a finger. I try to automate as many things as possible. Things will take a lot of effort and time in the beginning, but you should try to find ways to back yourself off from it if you can. So yeah, Sunshine Shop, unless I'm like actively building something for it, it's just there running in the background, and the whole fulfillment and shipping and all the stuff is all that's handled somewhere else. So I just keep the domain renewed and make sure the taxes get done every year, and we're good.
Yeah. Sometimes that's the hardest part.
That part sucks. Yeah.
So it's just going off topic here, but is it all drop shipping? Printed and drop shipped?
Most of it is, yeah.
Nice, dude. Yeah, okay, cool. I don't really talk about this online because it's completely different from my main audience on LinkedIn, social media stuff. But my wife and I are both den leaders for our kids' Cub Scout dens. Mm-hmm. So we're involved in Cub Scouts. So we have this, we call it Scout Swag. It's an Etsy shop, but it's all through Printful. And we basically sell custom Scout gear. Yeah. And so it's like all Cub Scout related t-shirts and bags and mugs and shit like that. The one regret I kind of have is we're doing custom stuff where you could put your pack number on it. So now anytime someone orders something, I've got to spend 10 or 15 minutes going and updating the Illustrator file and uploading the PDF, which I kind of regret. I kind of wish we had just done generic Scout stuff that sells and we're done. But yeah, that's
totally. Yeah, no, that's, it's almost too bad that's become a top seller for you probably.
Yeah, it is. It is now.
Yeah, now you have another part-time job.
It's like just 10, 15 minutes, but it's like you're with Etsy. I don't know if like you've sold on Etsy before, but you got like deadlines. And if you don't hit the deadlines, you lose your star. And there's a lot of pressure there. You're like, oh my God, I got to get it. So, which kind of leads me to the next thing. This is the next question I have for you. You've maybe not thinking about the stuff you've done now, but in the past, you've probably stopped a lot of things and cut some stuff off. Yeah. And I'm curious, I think there's a difference between I'm just getting burnt out with this right now. I need a break. Versus this thing is just run its course and I'm done. How do you separate? Is there a way you think about that? Is it just temporary? Is this like done? How do you think about that?
I think of it more as like a just hiatus kind of thing. There's definitely some projects that I've totally killed. Maybe they just weren't great ideas, and ends up I figure if I kill it and nobody comes asking about it, then probably it wasn't that great. So I just let it die. Yeah, at one point I tried to spin up a sort of on the printing topic, basically a screen printing business where I was outsourcing to shops all around the world and trying to basically build in this sort of like referral mechanism. In a perfect world, you're doing all the top of funnel work and getting like a 10% cut on every order. And I thought, oh, that feels like a boring business. And a lot of times people would say that's like the best places to find opportunities. Forget about the top AI startups. Go freaking figure out screen printing. That's like the whole niche. But yeah, I had to kill that thing. It was just, I looked at it at the end of the year. I was like, okay, it's like maybe a couple $100 were made here. It's taking up some brain space and I kind of need to let it go. At one point, I also, not on purpose, but when I moved to California, we didn't know if we would stay here for long. So we rented out our house back in Canada. And I basically ended up becoming a landlord for 10 years. And that's a project in its own. Things go wrong. You have to fix stuff, all these things. And thankfully, last year I did sell that house, and the relief I felt of, okay, that's not a thing I have to think about. Like no more Sunday calls that the hot water tank broke or whatever. Someone's having an issue here or there. So you open up a little more space for the things that actually make you happy. There are two pretty clear examples of things I've cut. Everything else, I think it's a hiatus thing. Sunshine Shop might not be super active for 6 months to a year, but that's because my work and family are calling me to be there. And that's got to take priority. I don't know. Maslow's hierarchy, kind of like survival mode thing comes into play, like baseline things. Your full-time job allows you to do the other things. So make sure that one's kind of in check.
It goes back to what we talked about earlier about maintenance modes. You don't have to necessarily, unless it's costing you money and you're losing money. There's certainly like no reason why you can't just say, I love what you said too. If I put it on hold, no one asked me about it, unless I truly miss it and it actually, because this is something I think I've experienced too in the past with like side projects and stuff. You're like, I'm burnt out. I need a break. And then you you take a break and you're like, I miss it. I want to get back into it. If it fills you up, great, man, go for it. Totally. If you feel that weight off, you're just like, oh my God, I never have to deal with that shit again. I'm so, and I think that's telling you something.
It's a good sign. It's a good sign.
So one more question here. I'm curious that you've been doing a lot of things in the past. Mm-hmm. Is there something that you've held on to longer than you should have? And what kept you from letting it go sooner? I'm curious.
That's a great question. What have I held on to too long? Probably, no, I don't think there's anything I've held on too long. No, my wife would say the band. She's let the dream die, Frank. Let
it go.
But
dude.
I have so much fun doing it. It's pretty seasonal. Maybe actively taken on less sort of the speaking engagement stuff and just accepted that I've been there, done that, lived it. I did config 1 year and I thought, you know what more do you want? You did it, Frank. Here's your feather in your cap. You can move on.
Yeah,
totally. So yeah, I think I probably held on to the speaking thing a little too long. But yeah, it's still kind of there.
But you could always pick it up. You can always pick it back up. Yeah,
exactly.
It doesn't cost you any money. I used to play in bands and stuff, and I remember vividly this realization. I was in my early 30s, and I was just like, I'm looking down, and I'm like, got this gut. I'm like overweight. Starting to get gray hair in my beard. And I'm like, how famous am I ever going to be? We go to shows, we would play all ages shows, and there'd be like 14-year-old kids there. And I'm like, what am I fucking doing with myself right now? You know? Actually, it's funny, man. We had, you remember the band Better Than Ezra from the 90s?
Yeah.
You heard that? Okay. So their bass player was our producer. And he had a recording studio in New Orleans, and we went in there, Tom Drummond, and we recorded at his studio, and he was producing our album and all that stuff. And I was just thinking like...
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought so, right? So like, we're going to be famous. And I just was like, do we expect to be more famous than Better Than Ezra?
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, at that time, he was making a lot of money, but it wasn't millions. It was maybe 6 figures, few $100,000 a year or something. And I'm like, this is a Grammy Award winning bass player. He didn't write the songs. He wasn't getting the royalties. And I'm thinking like, I'm a drummer. I'm not going to get any money from this. Like, how much am I going to make? And I was a designer at the time. I'm like, I'm making 6 figures. I remember that conversation and I cried, dude. I actually cried because I was just like that realization that I'm like, I'm not going to be a famous musician like I thought. You know what I mean? And I remember my wife was just like, fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, it's a tough moment. I think I can totally relate. And there's moments where I look back at my 20s and I think, thank God that band broke up, because I would have been trying to push it for 10 years while I should have just been focusing on my career. And now I'm thankful to be on the other side. I think you could probably jump back into it too, where you're in this, your kids are getting older, like you're more in like unk mode, or you go, like it's acceptable. There's this like period of time where it feels unacceptable for you to be focusing so much on music, where now you're like, you're on the other side. And it's, this is like definitely your hobby and you're doing some things that are like pro-ish, but you can actually afford to hire the Better Than Ezra guy, and you're not going in the hole to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I remember. So this is the brand before that one when I quit. So we went up to New York. We recorded an album, and I remember we had such a hard time finding $200 for the hotel room.
Yeah.
You know, like waiting tables and like none of us have money. We're like, God, $200. How are we going to afford that? And I don't know, man. It was just the funniest thing. And now I think about $200. Are you kidding? We had to.
Totally. Yeah, no, it's odd to be somewhere in the middle of that. Cause I think with my project, like we're like on a sort of a pro-ish, like a pro record label, but I look at it and I can kind of just like self-fund this thing. I'd rather just self-fund it than borrow money from the label that I then have to pay back later. Then it's definitely feel blessed to be in that position. But that balancing act of like being a career person with a foot in the music industry, and like sometimes I'm having conversations with these people and I'm here just showing up because this is fun for me, but I can see that this is their full-time job. And it's like this, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot these people are all like on payroll at the record label and supporting my hobby. Yeah, it's a bit of a trip. Also, I have tons of friends who still are in music, who still do like session work or like studio work.
But it's freeing too. It allows you to like we talked about like when to let it go. You can let it go and it becomes just a fun thing you do on the side. Right now, it's funny getting back. We're actually trying to get back into music. My kids started taking guitar lessons, and now we've got like a rack downstairs, like all of the guitars we bought the kids, like some like cheap Squires and stuff, and like they're taking lessons. So it's like now we can get back into it.
Nice.
Now it's fun, and it's kind of like the family's doing it together, and it's kind of like a bonding thing, and there's no pressure to like I have to make money doing this, and it's kind of nice. I don't know. It's just I don't know if your kids are like doing music and stuff, but
that's really cool. I've been trying to find ways to have my wife and my daughter more. I only have one kid, but trying to find ways to get them more involved in these things. For example, every Thursday, my daughter's got skateboarding lessons out by the marina here in LA. And I signed her up for those because I kind of want to go too. I have a reason to go to the skate park while she's with a crew of other 5 and 6 year old kids. And then I can just pop in and out and kind of do my own thing. So that's one way where I'm like, okay, this is a win for me and a win for the family.
I feel like you'd be like a pretty hip dad though. I don't know. So she's not going to be like embarrassed. Dad, you're embarrassing me. Although I don't know, kids, man, you never know. It just like doesn't matter how hip you think you are. Your kids are embarrassed.
Yeah, at some age, I think we're still living in that zone where she thinks I'm the mom and dad are the absolute best. It's probably going to turn. It feels 5 going on 15 kind of a thing. Yeah.
Kids, man. I had a buddy who owned a skate shop, and he would tell me, he's like, dude, you never believe like all these parents that come in that used to skate when they were kids, and now their kids come in and they get their kids a skateboard, and they're like, well, I used to skate. I'm going to get a skateboard too. And then they come back like a month later with a broken leg or a broken arm. Oh, no.
Yeah, that definitely can happen.
It's just like, we're old now, we're a lot more fragile than we used to be.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway. All right, Frank, this has been awesome, man. We've had you here for a while. I got a few questions I'd like to ask all my guests to help my listeners get to know our guests a little bit better. But before we do that, before we get out of here, any closing thoughts? If designers are listening and they feel like their careers have been happening to them, what's the first thing that you would tell them to do to take control back and just become their own person?
Think about where you want to be this time next year, this time in 5 years. What do you want your life to look like in that time? And then kind of work backwards from there. It's probably going to not be exactly the way you think it's going to go, but you can at least position yourself and start looking at the opportunities that are going to get you to where you want to be. And just don't ever forget it. Your manager is not always going to be there to support you in the ways that you need them. And that's okay, because they're also thinking about themselves. Your manager wants that director promotion. They want that VP promotion. They're not spending all their days thinking about how do I get Frank from staff level to principal level or whatever it might be. You have to do that. That's on you. And it's actually, if you think about it, it's actually part of the role. The more senior you get as a designer, the more in charge and in control you should be of the things you work on. And part of the things you work on is you. You're in the driver's seat, man. It's liberating. You're in control. If it's not working for you, there are other opportunities. If you're upset that your company has a return to office mandate, then put it back on yourself. If you really believe in yourself and you're that good, it should be no problem for you to find the thing you believe you deserve. So it's empowering. Go and do it.
Tie that back to what you said earlier about if you're in an at-will state, right? Like it goes both ways.
Yeah.
They could fire you at any point, but you don't have to stick around there. If you're not getting what you need, get the hell out.
No.
And as someone who's been laid off a couple times now, what I've realized now is like these companies have absolutely zero loyalty to you. They will let you go as soon as they need to. Just, you don't know them anything.
Yeah, and it's tough because you might have the greatest close relationship with your manager, but sometimes they don't have the power. And somebody from finance says, hey, sorry, man, we got to do 20% cuts. The business is pivoting. So unfortunately, that's maybe going to be you. I think it's good for you to go through that at some points in your career, even though it sucks. But it is empowering, and it does remind you that at the end of the day, you don't have to be an ass about it. You don't have to be like jaded either. I think it's just like understanding how the game is played and making sure that you're well positioned so that you can navigate that and that you're not left holding the bag at the end of the day of wondering where it all went wrong.
Excellent advice. I love it, Frank. All right, man. You got some time. We had you for about an hour now. You ready? You got some time to stick around and answer a few silly questions. All right. First up, first thing that comes to your mind, you don't have to think too hard about it. What is your favorite non-design book?
Favorite non-design book? There's a book called Everything You Think the Opposite. I might be saying that slightly wrong, but I think that book has really been helpful for me. It's a really short coffee table book. It's basically teaching you to not follow the trend of the day and go the other way. Yeah. It's not always right, but there's been a few key moments in my life where I see the way things are going and I go, you know what, screw, I'm not going to go and fall into that trap. I'm going to do the opposite. And it's worked out pretty well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have to check that out. I love that concept though. It's just like, whatever you think, maybe just analyze the opposite too, right? Like I haven't read the book. I don't know what the book's about, but like just instead of getting tunnel vision, just take a second and get the perspective of whatever the opposite is.
I'll give you an example. Woke up this morning seeing that I think probably some of your audience is going to be people who play the stock market game a little bit. You look at the headlines right now are that the NVIDIA stock is on a tear. We just opened up trade of NVIDIA to China. So the market is responding very positively. What does that make you want to do? Makes me want to go buy NVIDIA right now. But that's actually the wrong time. You should have bought NVIDIA 2 years ago. We all know that in our minds, but your sort of human instinct is like, oh shit, I got to get on the wagon before it's gone. So I think that's a really practical way. And you can test that in real time.
I love that. And just a little footnote there. This is not financial advice. We are not.
Smart. Good.
Don't take any stock tips from Beyond UX Design, please. Unless they're good tips, then you give us credit. All right. Next up, what's your favorite non-design podcast?
Ooh, non-design podcast. There's one called, what is it called? It's called, Is This a Cult? I think it's called.
Oh, yes, dude.
Sounds like a cult.
Sounds like a cult. Yes.
I love that podcast. It's so fun. Sometimes they talk about techie things, like they talk about like the cult of Silicon Valley or like the cult of Elon Musk, things like this. But I think that's a really fun, refreshing podcast. I think also getting my head out of kind of the manosphere a little bit, even though I feel like I try not to subscribe to it. It's very easy as a dude in my late 30s to get sucked into that stuff. I think it's super refreshing podcast. It's lighthearted and fun, and they basically analyze all these like weird subcultures and groups, and then at the end of the episode decide, is this a cult or not?
Yeah, that's a good one. I love that one. There's also one, it's not exactly the same, but it's called Time Suck with Dan Cummins. Have you ever listened to that?
No.
He gets like really graphic and like sometimes very offensive. But anyway, he actually does a lot of cults, like actual cults, even things that like aren't necessarily cults. Like, I don't know. Anyway, just random shit. But anyway, it's another good one. If you got time. They're long episodes, like 2 hours long. But anyway.
Love it. Yeah.
It's good that while you're washing the dishes or cutting the grass or something. All right. Next up, what is your favorite meal?
Favorite meal? I've been vegan for like 15 years. My favorite meal would have to be probably some kind of a Thai dish, like a cashew nut tofu dish, something like that. Some spice. It's got to have some spice.
Right on. Do you cook it yourself or you got a favorite restaurant? I'm sure you got a lot of good spots.
We've got tons of Thai stuff here. I do cook a lot, but Thai is not one that I've really gone into. I cook a real good aloo gobi. I do some good Indian cooking.
All right.
Yeah.
I just cooked some butter chicken the other day.
Nice.
It was fantastic. My kids hated it. They complained about it and told me they never want me to make it again. I'm like, thanks a lot, you selfish little sons of guns.
I think it's so fun. I think it's fun to fill the house up with these aromas that, you know.
You might laugh at this. I was cooking and every night I get my kids to set the table, right?
Yeah.
So it's their thing. Set the table. Hey guys, we're about to eat, set the table. My youngest kid, he's 8. He walks in, he goes, he did this. You can't see at home if you're listening, but he put his shirt up over his nose. He goes, what are you cooking? What's that smell? I can't set the table. And he ran out. He wouldn't set the table. He wouldn't go in the kitchen and get the forks and stuff. I was like, you little son of a bitch.
Meanwhile, you're cooking it and just indulging it, just loving your creation.
It was great, man. It was so good. Anyway, my kids, they don't know. They'll appreciate it one day. When I was a kid, I used to eat shit out of a can. I don't think I ate a fresh vegetable till I was actually in college and cooking my own meals because my parents just ate shit out of a can in the 90s. That was our thing.
Sounds like kids.
What is your favorite vacation spot?
Ooh, I'm spoiled living in Los Angeles, and I definitely chose this place thinking if I live in a place where I'd want a vacation, I'll probably want a vacation less.
Did that work?
It works pretty well. I like going out to Palm Springs. It's a good 2-hour drive from here. It's desert. It's pretty laid back, calm. It's not a busy city. We try to get out there at least once a year. Other than that, I can't say. We did Thailand once. Loved it. Again, Thai. I like Thai food.
Yeah.
I like Thailand.
Yeah. Was Thailand pre-kids or post-kids?
Pre-kids. It was a honeymoon trip.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the vacation I'll remember, the most iconic one of my life. But I should probably take some more time for myself. I feel like I got so much going on with the band and touring and stuff that I kind of take my PTO from work to do tours, and that ends up being like kind of like work.
It's not as you need a vacation from your after your PTO.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. What is your favorite design tool that is not Figma? So this is a weird question to ask everybody now because people are like not really using Figma as much as they used to. But
I think we're going to see that turn a little bit. I don't think Figma's fully out of the picture.
I'm interested to config, see what they come up with.
Yeah. The pendulum's swinging hard toward AI tools, and that's fine. It's going to land somewhere in the middle. I'm still a big fan of the whiteboard, man. I had a session with a designer I was working with at DoorDash a few weeks ago in the office, and it was like, whoa, remember we used to do this every day? Just like two people on the whiteboard.
Yeah. That's what I miss. I don't want to go 9 to 5 Monday through Friday back, but I work fully remote now. My team is 100% remote. I got somebody in LA and in Portland and Denver and Brazil, and we collaborate, but it's not the same as like getting up and like drawing crap in person, man. I miss that so much. I miss that so much. But you know, it's nuts, dude. I actually was just talking to somebody the other day and they were like shocked I said this, but we are not renewing our Figma license at work at the end of May.
Interesting. Okay.
Isn't that crazy? We're going all in Cursor, dude. Design everybody's Cursor, 100%.
That's super interesting to me. I'll catch up with you in a few months after. I'm so curious to hear where it goes.
I want to catch up with myself in a few months, man. I don't know, dude. It's going to be really interesting. No more canvas design tools. We're going to keep our whiteboard tools, but it's nuts, dude. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, to be perfectly honest. But
does the whole design system live in Cursor now? Yeah.
It's all React components and it lives in code in GitHub. We've got Storybook. You can visualize it, but nice. If you're getting rid of Figma, dude, it's nuts. Which I don't know. I'm interested to see. We made that decision before config. They're going to announce some new stuff in another couple of months. It's May while we're recording this. I don't know when we're going to release this, but who knows? Probably be before June. Config, who knows what they're going to announce, and then we'll see. Maybe we'll renew our license. I have no idea.
Very interesting.
Well, you know what's interesting, dude, is, and I'm kind of going off topic, we might cut this out, but
it's fine.
What's interesting is everybody's going on AI tools, and that's awesome, but they're very expensive, and it's way more expensive than a bunch of Figma seats. So now we're being like very conscious about the money we're spending and the tools that we're spending, and it's not to say that Figma is dead and that you can't use Figma to do your work. What it is saying is it's expensive, and we have to make a decision about what we want to pay for. And so what is our stack going to be? So, it's like, I don't think Figma's dead, but our company's not paying for it anymore. So I don't know. For us, it's dead. I guess like we're not going to be able to use it. So I don't know, man. It's nuts. I don't know where it's going. Well, I'll ask that. What's your favorite design tool that's not Cursor or something in like 6 months? I don't know. We'll see.
I remember it's wild to think of this because when I was doing more of the courses, I was doing this design leadership course. I remember I had a slide in my keynote presentation that kind of showed a bit of the tool stack that you're sort of at a lead staff level expected to know. And I remember a moment where I brought ChatGPT into that slide, and it was almost a joke at the time. It was like kind of like, maybe we're using this a little bit, like maybe we should learn prompting or something. There's something going on here. And I think some people even reacted like, oh yeah, right, that'll never be part of the toolkit or whatever. And here we are.
Dude, and it's blown my mind how fast it's been, because we were not talking about this in February.
No.
And here we are, middle of May, and we're not going to renew our license. It was like a month or two, and it's just nuts. And if other teams are making that same kind of decision that fast, I don't know, dude. I think it comes down to a budgetary thing. And it's not anyone saying Figma's bad. It's just I can't afford both.
So you've got everything living in Storybook components. It's all in code. If somebody says, hey, Jeremy, we want to revamp the design language. The design system's getting cumbersome, typeface change, whatever. Of course, you can do that. You can say, replace all the H1 headlines with this font instead of that one. But if you need to do like a holistic sort of overhaul of the system, I guess then just get Figma for a month with a couple.
Here's what I would say we would probably do is we've got global variables. So it's like a SAS file basically. So we've got like everything in variables all over. And so I'll back up. We're using Ant. Are you familiar with Ant? the design system, basically. It's a component library, really. Anyway, so we're using that, and all of those are declared in a SAS file, essentially. Instead of declaring, and that's something part of the code review every time we do a PR is, are you hard coding something? Are you hard coding padding, margin, spacing, line height? Literally everything has a variable. And so you shouldn't be using those, so that when we do go and change it, just swap dark mode. I mean, just from light to dark mode, simple switch, and then everything changes. Anyway, we would probably go into that SAS file, change it, and see what it looks like. And then from there, if we decided that we needed to have a Canvas tool, we might go and pull in Figma. But I honestly, dude, I don't. It was not my decision, by the way. I'm not. It was above me. The directors and execs are the ones who made the call. But I don't know. Honestly, not sure, man.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I've maybe worked at a lot of companies that were so heavily brand and visual that kind of every 6 months or a year they go through this exercise of we need to rethink the whole thing. It's not enough to just tweak a little padding here, typeface change, blah, 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 kind of thing. What if the buttons are purple instead of whatever? That's fine. But I could definitely see a Canvas tool being helpful. And hey, we're going to rethink the whole flow.
We've got a memo going around and everybody's leaving comments and stuff right now about that. Yeah. What do we lose? Yeah. Because there's an opportunity cost. Yes, we're saving money, but at the same time, just from a collaboration perspective, we have one branch and we've got the most recent branch, and there's that. It's all hidden essentially in GitHub, and you don't have a Canvas tool. Just look at all the stuff. You can't just visualize the stuff. You have to go and pull it down and run it in a browser, and you can see that one page. So we lose that. Yeah. And I don't know, dude. We'll see. 6 months, maybe we'll come back. I'll holler at you. I'll let you know if it was a complete disaster. Anyway, all right, cool. I might cut some of that. It's been long. Frank, this has been amazing, man. Really awesome to have you on. I've been following you for a very long time, and I'm just honored to have you come on the show. Super honored to have a chat with you. I learned a lot, and I hope everybody listening did as well. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thank you, Jeremy.
All right, y'all, that's it for Frank and me for today. If this episode got you thinking about what your career looks like outside of your job, I'd love to hear your take. Send me a message on LinkedIn or shoot me an email at hello@beyonduxdesign.com. I hope this helped you think a little bit more about who you are when the job goes away and what you're doing about it. And if the show's been helpful, the best way to support it is simple. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And for the love of God, leave me a quick review. It helps me out way more than you know. And if you want to go a step further and help keep the show independent and ad-free, check out beyonduxdesign.com/support. You'll get early access to episodes and the full video archive for as little as $5 a month. For everything else, episodes, newsletter, show notes, all that lives at beyonduxdesign.com. And if your team is tired of reinventing the wheel every time a new project kicks off, Mobbin gives you access to over 600,000 beautifully designed UI screens and user flows, all searchable with AI. It's the kind of tool that makes the whole team faster. So visit mobbin.com/beyondux to get 20% off Mobbin Pro and see why more design teams are making it a company-wide staple in 2026. And until next time, remember, you're more than a designer because there's more to UX and design. I'll see you around. Take care, y'all.